Instant karma is the result of all of our actions. Every action that we make has a consequence. What we put out to others comes back to us, and this is called the ripple effect. We stand for a positive reflection of self and others. We give respect, we honor traditions and cultures, and we share that knowledge. What we as humanity do as one is up to us, and it's time to make that choice. In an era where truth is buried like a lost treasure and history is being rewritten, we believe now is that time to correct this. See, truth is like the sun, and eventually that light comes out. And here on Instant Karma, we feel it is our purpose that we all shine on together as one. Thank you for joining Instant Karma Show. I'm Valerie Clark. Today's guest is Fred Robel. Fred Robel was born a small child, now a large man in Michigan with his wife, 3 children, 3 dogs, and 2 rabbits. He's a licensed aircraft technician and inspector with 20 years in the aviation industry. Fred works full-time on airplanes and writes part-time about whatever occurs to him. He's published 3 books thus far, all dealing with hopes, dreams, and aviation in some way. He's attempting to live up to his potential and provide fuel for humanity's creative fires by writing daily. By sharing his writing, teaching his children, he feels potential becomes dead weight if left unused. Thank you, Fred, for being here on Instant Karma Show.
Thank you for having me.
I just read your most recently published novel titled Tales of the Wrench, Stories in Verse Inspired by the Life of Aviation Maintenance. How many of these stories are fiction, or were they all real events?
Well, I sat down and finally counted them up, and only 7 out of the 24 pieces were mostly made up. The rest of them are based in reality in a very significant way. Some happening to me, others to people I know, or incidents and happenings that I'm very familiar with. But as far as being truthful, I think they all are. They all truthfully reflect something I wanted to communicate about some aspect of my job in aviation.
Kisses, blood, kerosene, and silk.
So I lied. The ground flashes by as I streak along at full power, just 20 feet above the blurred earth. Razor-thin wings cutting the air at 600 miles per hour, the ghostly flat white that covers the exterior of the Learjet dully reflecting the moonlight, a half-seen blur in the high desert night sky. This is the first and only test flight, so I'm flying it like I stole it. Some would say reckless, but I beg to differ. This dream, the dream, is coming true. It's my mental musing done in metal. The original sketch is done on a Burger King napkin. I have no engineering degree, but I have a faith in the airframe, and that seems to be enough to suspend the laws of physics and fear, at least for now. I pull back on the yoke, hoping and praying, leaping out of ground effect at just below the speed of sound, all the blood rushing to my feet as I pull at 3 Gs. My thumb taps the red button, the shiny red button, held to the left grip with dozen loops of safety wire. The aircraft shudders as a new vibration joins the rest, accompanying the 16,000 rotations per minute of internal General Electric suck-squeeze-bang-blow, now a trio of hydrogen peroxide and kerosene combustion, compressed through 3 fixed nozzles, collectively add 25,000 pounds of thrust, Bristol Sidley's finest contribution to chemical propulsion, escorts me through Mach 1 and to a predictable problem. Almost simultaneously, the primary engine's compressor stall. I chop the throttles, I release the button, and level the aircraft out. In a few moments, once again becoming a subsonic beast. Before descending, I bring the now recovered engines back to power, happily cruising at 20,000 feet and 500 miles per hour. Yes, this will do nicely, I think to myself. I told the man I was going to make myself a man cave out of the fuselage, the coolest aviation-themed man cave there ever was. The wings were going to become high-end conference tables, the engines to be disassembled for decorations. Like I said, I lied.
Amazing excerpt, thank you, from your novel, Kisses, Blood, Kerosene, and Silk. What gave you the idea of creating this storyline?
Well, I used to work for one of the flight test arms of a jet engine manufacturer called Pratt & Whitney, with a very talented group of individuals. What we did there, to put it crudely, was to strap different kinds of engines to our Boeing 747 flying test bed, and we performed ground and flight tests to gather data about the engine. We had a place where we would retreat during break time that we nicknamed the room of speculation. This was because when we got in there, we started discussing various things. Could be, world hunger, could be, a problem at work. And before you knew it, we started trying to solve all these problems, usually with something kind of outlandish and strange speculative ideas. One of the things we discussed one day was the thought of strapping some small rocket motors to an old airplane, which was brought on by talking about the movie The Right Stuff, where Chuck Yeager takes up an F-104 test plane and has himself a crash. So I decided that an old Learjet would be an economical choice. What to do with such an airplane? Why, go into space, of course. This led to further speculation as to how that would work and what would become of the pilot, the odds of his survival. Very speculative things. Basically, we kind of decided that it would just be a fancy way to commit suicide. But you fast forward that to 2012, and I wrote a short piece on my 365 project about a man flying just such an airplane on a short flight, which is what I just read to you. And that was kind of created as a standalone piece originally. But I kind of liked it. I liked it a lot, and so I decided I wanted to know more about him. How did he end up in that plane? Why would he do such a thing? So he became a man who reaches the middle of his life and gets the news that he's dying. And this causes him to look back at his life and discover that all he's ever done have been normal things, nothing out of the ordinary, at least in his opinion. And this story becomes his way of doing something remarkable in the time that's left to him.
Oh, okay. So you mentioned Fritz. Fritz 365, that's a compilation of prose written by you. What started this, and how old or new are some of the poetry in this collection?
Well, there are about 358 poems that I wrote for the project. And this is a project that went on all through 2011. And I wrote one poem a day, or a verse, or a short story, what have you. But I wrote something almost every day. 358 new things, which means there were 7 old things. It's because I've been writing on and off since high school. The oldest thing that was in there, I think, is from 1991. And I started doing it because, kind of like the guy in my story, Kisses, Blood, Kerosene, and Silk, I had kind of an awakening about my mortality and the fact that I felt like I hadn't done anything with a lot of my talents so far in life. Some men buy Corvettes. I did this.
It's a great book. Do you have a favorite poem in Fritz 365?
I think it would have to be the oldest one. It's called Tumbleweed Addiction. It's one I wrote, and I rewrote it several times through different iterations, which is something I don't normally do. I tend to sit down and write something, and then I'll edit it when I post it, and then that's pretty much it.
Yes, I do the same exact thing. What's it like to be an aircraft inspector, and how does one reach this position in your field?
Well, being an aircraft inspector, first of all, it's a lot like it sounds. You're inspecting aircraft or parts thereof, and you get there through experience and a little bit of luck. I didn't become an inspector until I'd been working on planes for about 8 years, and then I kind of fell into the position because I happened to be the only guy there that had a lot of experience on the airplane we were flying. So I became the inspector.
It intrigued me because after reading Tales of the Wrench and reading all of your stories about an aircraft mechanic on these planes or having scary incidents, I found it very interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. We get to do a lot of unusual things sometimes. A lot of days it's a normal, 9 to 5 type job. Other times it'll be, you'll be at work and they'll say, hey, who wants to go to Columbia? We just blew up an engine down in Columbia. Who wants to go change it? And so next thing you know, you'll be running home to get your overnight bag, and you'll be leaving along with another group of people, and you'll go down there, and could be a few days, could be a few weeks.
Speaking of Columbia, you had an incident there and learned a valuable lesson. Tell me about this story.
Yeah, down in Columbia, I have a funny thing. I'm one of those people that I don't know. I don't like fatty meats. So when I can't pick my own slice of meat, I'll generally default to something like chicken. Apparently, Bogota, Colombia is really known for its beef industry. It's kind of like going to Texas for a South American. You go there and you eat the steak. But that's not what I did. I ordered chicken. And we were in a really high-end hotel, too, because that was the only place that was, safe for Americans passing through to stay in at that time. So I ordered the chicken, and I got it, and I had a couple beers in me, and I just started eating it without thinking much, talking with everyone, and it turns out that it was kind of raw, and I got pretty sick.
So you learned your lesson.
Yeah. Well, Well, it kept me safe. I mean, nothing happened to anybody else that was there when they went walking around, but, it could have back then in the mid-90s. Yeah, you should always eat the steak.
You recently told me that you host a Q&A session on a website. What types of questions do people ask on this site?
Yeah, that's over at jobster.com. It's basically a place where people can go to learn about different professions. And I think they have a place where people that are looking to hire can post job openings and stuff. They invited me to come over there when the Boeing 787s first started having its battery fire issues, I don't know, a month or so ago. He didn't have an aircraft technician or anything that could answer anybody's questions, and he thought that'd be a good thing to have. So he found me, I think, on Google Plus and invited me over there. And predictably, the first couple questions I had were about the Boeing 787. Do you feel safe about it? Would you fly on it? Things like that. A lot of the other questions, sometimes it seems like it's people that are interested in becoming an aircraft mechanic and they want to know more about what I do every day. And other times it's people asking off the wall things like, where do you think's the safest place to sit if you crash? And I'm like, man, I don't know.
Where's the safest place if you crash?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, they always put the flight data recorder and stuff in the back by the tail, but that's not to say that's the safest place.
I don't think there's really any safe place if you do crash.
Oh yeah, there isn't really.
No.
No, I think it all comes down to luck. Trying to getting away from something like that.
Yes. Where can everyone go to find your writings and your books?
Well, they're available on Amazon Kindle. All three of the books are. I have my latest one, Tales of the Wrench. It's in the Kindle Select program, so it's only available on Amazon Kindle for a couple months now. But the rest of them are available in the Apple's iBook store, Barnes & Noble Nook store, Smashwords.com. And they're also all three available hard copy through Amazon.
Fred, it has been a joy having you on Instant Karma Show. I look forward to your future projects. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed talking to you.
That was aircraft inspector, proud father, and author Fred Robel. Visit these sites for more information on his books and Q&A sessions and his writings. Fritz365.blogspot.com, Smashwords.com, Jobster.com, and Amazon.com. Thank you for listening to Instant Karma Show. I'm Valerie Clark, wishing you light and love.